Hulk. And thank you so much for folks taking the time to actually jump in for today's session. Um, while we're a community of again operators, creators who come together to see how we can back early stage founders, of course with capital, but again with our again skill set, our network. We think it's very important as well to find a way to keep enabling ourselves, even as angel investors, and that could come from a place of again, just educating ourselves on what's going on in the space. And so every last Thursday of every month, we actually host these sessions where we bring in external speakers or even community members like we'll see today, who are specialists in their own rights to just come share with us as to again what they're seeing, what they are noticing, and just against tools that again even we ourselves as angels could actually extend to our portfolio companies or even founders outside of Hope that we come across as well in our daily lives. And so today I'm really excited to be having one of our own. So Peace Itimi, she's a member of the whole community, but she's also a super operator as well. And again, I don't use those words. I don't use that label loosely. I think there are less than 5 people that have actually attributed that label to. Babajide Droshel have been one of them, and then Peace Itimi as well. These are people who again have done that. They have things they can share. It's not just again theoretical stuff, it's practical stuff that will move the needle when it comes to growth. And I think we're at the time right now in the startup ecosystem or the startup land where growth is very critical. How do you deliver on growth? How do you do that in a capital efficient way, in a cost efficient way? How do you keep making progress in your company without burning so much capital? And so we're going to talk about like lean growth. For those who are big on their barbecues and meats, we call like lean meat. Like this is not just fatty and all. This is like lean quality meat. So how can we again have that transcribed to growth where you're having real growth, and it's not just because you're pumping a lot of money into advertising or really like you give people like $1 for referrals and nobody's really converting, like again real numbers, not vanity metrics but again sanity metrics. So we'll be talking about that this evening. Please, if you have questions, please feel free to put that into the comments, or we'll actually open the floor for you to use the raise hand feature, and we'll be sure to call you on to ask a question live. But yeah, Peter Timmy is a member of Oak. She's been there since the early days. She actually also is a venture partner as well. So she's led deals, and she's actually like even in our last Q1 set of deals, she actually led some of those deals. So she's been leading deals within the community. But she has a day job, which is actually being a growth leader at a couple of again startups right now at Smile ID, one of the leading houses when it comes to again verification, KYC, identity verification, address verification, things like that. That's quite important. In fact, I always make the case that while fintech is all well and good, if you can't verify who people say they are, then again, that's accessible into the digital economy. So what they're building is quite critical to the ecosystem. So she actually leads growth there. And she also actually hosts a platform on YouTube and also a live edition called Founders Connect. And so, Peace, it's good to have you join us this evening. I know you mentioned you're under the weather, so I brought my mug of tea as well to come warm me up as well as myself because I'm actually like also coming out of a cold as well. But yeah, if we don't further ado, it's good to have Peace come up and we can jump into the conversation.
I'm not sure Peace is here yet, so
Oh, we don't know if it's okay. Let's see if we can actually just contact and confirm that. But I guess in the meantime, maybe we can also just open it up for any questions that you might have about Hulk, and we'll definitely get back to regular programming. But any questions, because we like to use this session as well for that as well, and I can invite Joe and the rest of the team as well to jump in. But any questions, if you're new, if you're an existing member, if you have any questions about just how the year has been going and any feedback as well. We always like to use this forum to capture that information as well. So yeah, any questions from anybody, to raise your hand and we'll call you up. Okay, I see a David White.
Hi, good evening.
Hi David, how's it going?
I'm fine. Um, so my question is there a founder kind of community where founders can leverage on each other to
Mm-hmm,
collaborate? And the reason why I'm
mm-hmm,
asking is because if you really think of it, it's not every startup that actually needs some huge funding,
mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes founders just go chasing money, but what they actually need is customers. And
Right,
I've discovered that
right,
for my own company too. I'm running a video game entertainment, digital entertainment company.
right.
And when I think of it, we've been trying to get funding, but we've not really been able to get funding, maybe
Mm-hmm,
because of we are not that attractive enough yet.
mm,
But when I think of it, we have a product, it's already
right.
in the market, we have
Mm-hmm,
users, and I think our biggest problem right now is that we don't just have enough users. Like if I could get my user
all right,
base up just a little bit, I don't
all
really
right.
think I would need. So is there
Okay,
a way for founders to leverage on each other
all right,
um, in
all right.
terms of, yeah, just
Yeah,
creative
yeah.
ways they can leverage on each other?
Good question. And thanks, David White, for that question. And please feel free to also plug your what you're building in the comments. Perhaps again, your customers might actually be on this call, so hopefully they can go check out what you're building as well. But yeah, while Hoke is not that, I mean, it's something that we do have. I mean, we have founders amongst ourselves, and beyond the capital, like I mentioned, we find other ways to support founders who are building things. So again, um, downloading an app, testing an app, giving feedback, helping with figure out pricing, trying to figure out go to market, partnership, distribution. These are things again the community can rally around. But as to like again, in my opinion, I think the best communities perhaps to get those kind of things are think about your incubators, your accelerators, your co-working spaces, just finding places where you have a lot of founders aggregates by design would be what I would recommend. And we have a number of those depending on where you're based, even online versions of that as well. There are a number of like Slack founder groups, there are a number of like what do you call them, WhatsApp and Telegram groups as well. So yes, we shoot us an email at hello@hook.club or hook.co. We'll be sure to send a few recommendations to you. But again, my intention is that okay, just think about where our founders gathering up, and you think about again co-working spaces, accelerators, incubators like your CC Hub, academia as well. If you're still a student, a lot of like entrepreneurship club, the societies, and then of course like again the WhatsApp groups and the Telegram groups as well, and Slack and all. So I think just thinking about again choosing that framework would help you think about spaces that you can actually just again try to join. But again, if you want specifics more, like reach out to us. I'll be sure to actually share a few leads for you. All right. We've got Peace here. Peace, where's your tea?
I actually forgot that we planned to do tea. I jumped from one call to the other, so didn't have time to stand up to make.
No worries, no worries, no
Hi
worries.
everyone. I'm so sorry for joining late. I had a call and I was talking numbers and good stuff, and I didn't have any control. And the call was supposed to be 45 minutes. I have 15 minutes before this, but it ended
Yeah,
up being 30 minutes longer.
yeah.
So, but thank you
No
for
worries.
having.
No worries. Good to have you here. So I mean, I've sung all your praises in your absence. I think that's a good thing and a bad thing in the sense that
Pressure.
I don't think I can do that again, like and do it as well. But yeah, like again, Peace, growth
We can
leader.
just jump right in. I mean, we already spent some time on it, so
All right. So let's jump into it. I think I think this is a quite timely topic. Like I was putting the context behind the conversation. growth is like the lifeline of a startup. If you're not growing, like, are you really a startup? And the growth expected of startups are also quite, again, of high bars. Like, it's not like you can't be doing 1-2% and saying I'm growing as a startup. You really have to be doing double, triple digits year on year and month on month. So growth has to happen. But then over a long period of time, capital or venture has been the fuel or the rocket fuel to actually, like, again, drive that growth. But now with VC winter and all, a big word thrown around about is capital efficiency. So people have to find a way to still grow, but grow in a capital efficient way. So maybe you're not throwing as much money to ads. Like I said, which we think this conversation lean growth, because again, we think there's kind of growth that you can grow without burning too much fat and too much of capital. So I think just again, from what you're saying, with reduced VC funding in space, slow down even more. What kind of growth? How would you describe the growth that is actually expected of startups in this current economic headwinds? Again, it could be based on observation, based on even people that you're actually talking to, or even the startup or the off startup that you're actually part of as well. So, are you saying budget slashes to you? Are you serious? Like, yeah. How is growth discussed today? Yeah.
Growth is still discussed as growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do people expect? What do investors and companies and the entire world expect from startups now, even with the fact that you're not able to raise as much money as you could have maybe 2 years ago, is that you still grow, right? Nobody's saying, oh my God, things are very hard. Dollar is crazy, but then don't grow, don't get more users, don't increase your revenue. Like, yeah, you still have to grow. But the conversation now is less about do we grow or not, but more of how do we grow, right? As against like spending a lot of money, doing referrals, doing giveaways. Startups are now expected to find the most cost-efficient ways to increase their revenue, to increase their usage, and ways that, you know, you're able to optimize ROI, reduce like your CAC, but just making sure that you're actually growing. I was thinking about it from the sense of it might be hard to raise money today, but a lot of the startups who are still surviving want to get to a point where in under 1 year, they're in a good standing to be able to raise money. What it gets from here to there, it's not that something just changes in the investors and the VC's minds and they say, okay, we want to spend money again, but that, these startups were able to sustain themselves and still actually progress in that time. And so now there's more traction and then there's more confidence that, because they went from point A to point D or from point A to point E, we know now that if we give them money, they could probably get to like Z a lot more faster. So nobody's expecting that things are hard and everybody just stays there. You die, you run out of money, like it won't actually work. But you have to learn to find the most cost-efficient ways. In the company I'm working for, the ones that I consult for, our entire goal right now is, yes, we don't have as much leeway to spend all the marketing dollars like we used to last year or 2 months ago, or even like Q4, right? Things are just a lot harder now, generally. So we're not spending the same money, but we'll still have to find the best ways to grow and say, hey, how do we do less? How do we spend less, but then grow more? And most of these ways is finding what are the community-led ways, what are the product-led ways, what are the content-led ways that we need to optimize so that we can actually move forward like really well, right? I can go into like
I like to definitely, but I think on a very high level, the meta model is like spend less, do more, but then like I said, like, okay, what are the ways you can actually like get more without spending too much? So community content, things that again perhaps before would have been things that are just okay, you're doing this as well, but like now you're focusing on those secondary like levers as I'm making them primary, if you will, because they're actually like less expensive. Finding to actually get over. But I'm still, if I again, based on what you're saying though, but like what is the meta model of like less? So is less 20%, 40%, 60%? How do you even get to define what less
I think it's based on how much money your company currently has at the moment. Generally, like honestly, I think it's kind of like depends. But I think that generally, right, budgets from all the budgets I've seen have reduced at least 50%, right? Just in terms of this is how much we could spend last year, this is how much we are able to spend now. And you've been thinking about it as even the money that we're spending is probably the value is even less than the way it was before. Now we are just, and so the budget is 50% less, the value is probably like 50% less. So that's like maybe like 25%.
5%.
Right? That you have to actually work with to actually do
Mm.
something. And so the mental model that I'm saying is working is stop thinking about, at least I'm no longer thinking about the budget in itself and the money and how much we have to spend per se, and more of what are the things that we need to do that maybe we've never done before, or we just did a little bit of it because we had a lot of money and we just acquiring users. And then how do we then focus on those things now? I was literally having a conversation with somebody yesterday and we're like, oh, let's approve budgets. I'm like, yeah, we have the same strategy of paid ads, let's do PPC, let's do influencers. That's not going to work anymore, right? Let's go back to thinking about, what do we need to do with the product specifically? Let's even think about the existing users, and if they increase their volume, for instance, and we got more revenue, without then give us some more cash that we can then put it back into acquiring users. It's like that change in mindset to say, yes, there's budget, yes, there's no budget, but what are the channels and the activities that we can do that will get us there? And also remembering that when you're doing growth that is organic or that is not as paid as it usually would be, the beginning is a bit slower, because I would literally like run ads to do influencer stuff and pump the engine and I get maybe 1,000 users, whether they're quality or not, that's a different case. But I wish I acquire stuff. When I'm doing stuff that is organic, I would not just turn on the engine and tomorrow is working. There's going to be a few iteration and experiments there. But once you hit it, you do hit it, and then you can have like a really sustained way to actually. And then I think this is also a really good place to leverage on the brand that you might have built before, if you have. I saw a tweet from Cheaper's CEO the other day saying that they haven't spent as much money this year, but they're acquiring a lot of users. And someone was like, yeah, but that's also because Cheaper is a known brand. And I agree. When you have a brand that's already existing, you have customers, you have users. You can leverage that brand equity to say, this is what we have done. This is how far we've gone before, and then use that leverage to get more stuff. At Smart, for instance, I spent a good amount of last year working on building new case studies to say, hey, we have these really great companies that have worked with us to improve our sales enablement process. Let's actually get them to talk about Smile. And that increases our conversion. So it's more money, small stress, but then we have this material to show this is a great brand. We've invested in it. Let's build on all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's almost like it's an acquisition engine in itself, because again, you've gone from saying, oh, I'm so great, to having peers of companies that you want to acquire say that this company is great, they've helped me do this stuff, and even others are now looking for those similar results. Would then say, okay, let me actually work with that company as well. So, yeah, so that's really okay. But then that said, though, like you just mentioned, you're doing a case study video. That's not cheap. Like you're still investing, and then with almost like a hopes of like this would convert, this would lead to more growth. Like what's the meta model around investment still to say, okay, how much is not how much, but like what should we do, and when is enough time to show that it is working or not working? Because like you use the word experimentation, like you're still trying things and seeing if they work or not, and then double down if they do. So like in this environment where again growth is expected, like if you raise VC, for example, you are doing monthly updates, for example, or quarterly updates, and I have to see the numbers go up to the right. So like, how do you think about like experimentation whilst you're showing results and balancing those two things?
My personal methodology, and I say personal because I stress that a lot, is spending at least 70% of my resources right now on stuff that is already working, and then 30% on the new things I want to experiment. And as those things begin to work, I start balancing to like a 60-40, 50-50. And if that starts working better, then it becomes like 70, and I try at 30. And I mean, and this might not work so well for if I'm just entering the market and I have no data and I've never acquired users. In that case, you're saying, hey, these are 3 channels that we think are going to be based on our intuition, based on our own past experience, and let's do like a 50-50 split. And the minute we get a signal in 2 weeks, in a month, 6 weeks max, that something's working, then we say, hey, let's focus on here. Well, right? But for companies who you've already built a product 6 months in, 1 year in, 5 years in, 6 years in, there's data, right? It's not just looking forward and say, let's try these new things, but what have we tried before that is working? I'll go back to my Smile experience. Right now, we're very big on SEO. And it's not just because it is the cheapest way. And I know that long term, it would give us like really good sustained growth if we're able to rank higher than everybody else across all of the countries. But I'm also really big on SEO specifically because I've checked that over the last 12 months, 70% of our most valued qualified partners actually come in via search. So I know that, okay, this is great. I can say, yes, let me spend money. But I can look at it and say, marketing is already doing really great because, hey, our brand is doing well. We just want to up the engine. So I literally just hired a content and SEO lead. And I made that hire because I'm like, we're already here. I want us to grow. I know that if I invest in this channel, in the next quarter, we'll actually see that growth. Another thing that's working for us is the events that we actually go to, right? And again, this is different for different companies. There's specific events that we go to. We're getting 20 leads. This is B2B. 20 leads are coming out, 18 leads, 25. I don't think it's more than 25. Sometimes 10, depending on the value. And I know, okay, cool. If we focus on these events, then we can actually, and really specifically picking the ones that we go for, and obviously how we also collaborate at that event to get the most value, then we can come back and then we have 18 people that the sales team can actually move forward with and actually start having conversations with, and that's immediately impactful. For a B2C product, for instance, we can say, hey, we know that this set of influencers are doing really well. We don't want to do more money. We've worked with them before. Is it possible that we can negotiate for lesser and have more value and give it to actually them? We just integrated customer to IO because we have a lot of users that are stuck at the top of the funnel. They haven't moved down. We want to just work on activation and get a lot of those people past KYC and into their first transactions, because that automatically increases transaction volume revenue. So that first of what is already working, that we pump the engine on, and I focus my 70% of energy there. Then we want to experiment and try new stuff. Cool. 30%. And for experiments are only experiments if it doesn't take too long. Right? If it takes between a week to like a month, I'm in B2B now, so maybe like 6 weeks, half of the quarter. If it's getting to the end of the quarter, that might have to be a strategy, because experiments are also designed to either fail or succeed, right? So you can't spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and then you get there 33 months, a whole quarter is gone, and then it failed. We need to be able to like make decisions very fast and say, this is not working. I want to try something and change it really quickly. We've not invested too much resources, so let's like move on and try something else.
I feel like if we just end the meeting here, I think that's enough gems to have dropped in just one answer. So anything you're listening past this point, please take it as extra and Jara. But yeah, I think that was really packed. Like you said, experimental. Like then you start with what you know works. 70% invest. It's almost like an exploit versus explore type thing. So exploit what you know already works 70% of the time.
And then try new stuff.
For 30%, and then again, if that's then can displace your exploitation, then you have a new thing to exploit as well going forward. I think that makes a lot of sense from an investment point of view, and I like what you said about experimentation. Like it has to be time bound. You're not experimenting for 3 months and still say, we don't know if it's working or not. I will put in hard and cash into that. So again, make it very timed as well. But that said, one thing I do, thank you for giving the practical, the tangible example of the SEO and events that you mentioned. But for you to have gotten that insight, something has to be in place. Like it was not out of vacuum that you knew that SEO was going really well. So how do you then, again, perhaps for startups who are still very early and need to think about like again structure, insights, things like that. Like how I don't know how maybe it was before your time at Smile, but how do you know to put things in place that then allow you to have those insights to make informed decisions, like because those things in themselves are investments. Having a mixed panel, having SEO, having Google Analytics. Many people actually even skip that step and just try to go straight to market without the guy. So, like, how do you again think about investing in those infrastructure, if you want to call it that then makes it possible to make those kind of like let's explore.
I mean, when I'm starting with any company, whether it's in consulting based full time, my first thing is always
sorry,
excuse me guys, my first thing is still analytics. right? Because a large part of growth for me is being able to measure as much as you can. I heard many years ago that measurement is tomorrow's strategy, and it has stuck with me. I think it was like a webinar or something. I can't remember who said it, but she was saying like, if you measure today, what you measure today then becomes what you use as strategy. For instance, I'm measuring stuff, and I know, so I can beat myself on any board meeting, even the call I just went to say, this is the reason why I'm investing in this, because I have data to back it. My strategy today is based on what I was measuring yesterday. So that's always like my go-to to say, hey, let's invest in making sure that we are tracking as much as we can. And and it doesn't cost money. Google Analytics is free, right? Google Analytics is free. There are like more advanced tools that you can use, Mixpanel and Amplitude and the rest of them. And yes, some of them cost money. But even just being able to track, I know where my website traffic is coming from. I know where leads are coming from, and I can use like UTME track tags to do that. I can create Bitly links, it's free, and I can be able to see how many people clicked on that link and where they actually clicked it from. Being able to ask people when they download your app or when they, sign up for a demo, where did you hear about us from? All of these small things are attribution that actually comes in handy without thinking about, it's too expensive to track. It's not expensive to track. You're just not prioritizing it. They're just figure out like the tiny tools. My key stack is always Google Analytics for start, UTME links, Bitly links. If I want to go into mobile, maybe I'll do Apps Flyer. And they're also like really cheap versions that you can start with free depending on your traffic. And then you can figure it out as you go. Some people build their own internal tools as well, if you have the engineering bandwidth. There's stuff like, I used to explain it like this, that for almost everything that you do right now, there's a way to track. So even on company LinkedIn, there's insights on LinkedIn, right? So you can actually see, even people who are visiting our LinkedIn page, if you're B2B, where are they coming from, what are they doing, what their titles, all of that stuff. If I'm a B2C brand and we're very heavy on social media, I can also have a little bit of insight from what's happening on our Instagram, what's happening on our Twitter. If I'm doing any form of ads, there's a lot of ads manager that have analytics to be able to track all the way down to how much is this list costing, how much is this website traffic costing. The goal is to begin to think about your growth as, I need to be able to track it so that we can make more informed decisions. And we are not always in a place where we're guessing. It's okay to guess when you are at the very beginning. Like, I'm here, we are just entering the market, we just launched our product. Let's learn from what other people have done. It's not our own data. Let's use our own experience. That's cool. But the minute you go live, you need to start knowing, this thing that we did it actually work?
Right enough. Yeah.
Cool. We have a good idea of what we need to like start scaling at this moment. If it doesn't, then you have that data fast enough to make a different decision. One of the experiences that I've had, and this was a field one, was a company I worked for at the time, and we're very big on acquisition at the time. When a startup wants to raise money, like, we need to so that we can put in our deck that we're growing very fast.
That's
I came in excited, and we just started pumping on acquisition, and it was going well. We acquired lots of users, even at a really cheap cost. Brilliant stuff. And then I think 4 months down the line, I was like, we are acquiring a lot of users, but our monthly active usage is kind of almost at the same, because I noticed it feels like it's only the users who are coming in that is counting for monthly active usage. And that doesn't make sense, because I have 4 months of acquiring 30K users every month. And then we rolled back and realized retention was trash. So we get people in, but they were not. Once they test the product, activate, it just nosedives. And so we had to go back to say, we literally halted marketing for a while to fix the product, to say something is not working here. Let's actually fix it. I always remember that incident to say, hey, it was partly my mistake because I was leading growth at the time. As against just saying, CEO needs numbers, let me give it to him. And I was shining that I was acquiring users. I also should have paid more attention to how are we doing across the entire funnel down to revenue, right? And it took me a couple of months to realize, oh my God, this is actually not working. And so today, I'm making sure that across the entire funnel, as we're trying something, I'm saying, hey, somebody reports to me, we acquired 10K users. I say, cool. How many of them need KYC? Okay, 50% need KYC. Cool. How many of them have done a first transaction? Like, we would walk down the entire thing and then know source is also giving us the highest quality users, right? That's the only way that we can then make an informed decision tomorrow. And then if something is wrong with product, if something is, then we can say, product needs to fix this. If it's marketing, then we know that we need to like do more work there.
Yeah. And the crazy about it is that, like, I think, like I said, once you even identify your channels, like again, how your leads are coming in and the quality ones, you might even be surprised to find out that they're actually coming from non-paid channels, acquisition channels. That's more like, oh, we just did this thing, or we just did this partnership, or we just again pushing ourselves here, and this is what we're saying. So can we just do more of that? And I mean, there's effort involved, but there's no like, you're not actually like passing with cash as a result of it. So a lot of things you just actually find out actually are just quite exciting to see again. A lot of these things, but if you're not measuring, we're not actually like tracking and things like that. One very small hack I like to do is like for my URLs, I try to just again bitly them through in different ways. So like, okay, if I put this link in Twitter, I'm not putting that same link on LinkedIn, and I just say, okay, which one actually performs better? Yeah, which one like, let's see more clicks here or there. But if you're using the same link everywhere, like, yeah, people clicked it, but we don't know where they get.
Yeah.
We don't know where they get
and the truth is, like, analytics can be very deep. Like, I'm talking, how many people are doing a transaction, or like which kind of leads are coming in from there, and that's like really deep. But sometimes it's also just knowing where people clicking the links from. Like that gives you like an initial base to start from. And then as you go and you're able to like have the other tools, you can then go really the deeper you can go with data, the more information that you have. But that's having just clicks is better than not having any information at all.
True. All right. Let's talk about like maybe what some kind of like interesting things you've seen people do in terms of like just I wouldn't want to call it hacks, because like, okay, that's a word for it, but like, what have you seen any interesting thing that people have done? And it could be business model based, maybe like a B2C versus a B2B, that I've just like, okay, we've tried this because of these constraints that we've seen around capital and ad spending and all. We just tried different things, and I know you mentioned a few like around like content and events and stuff, but maybe just I want to see if we can give examples of people just trying creative things that have actually paid off and led to growth for them in their revenue or their business as a whole. Any examples come to mind?
That's a very interesting question. You didn't send me that question to prep.
I did. I was like creativity and some creative and maybe worded differently, but yeah, I think perhaps if they're memorable enough, they'll come to mind. But again, I mean like just like any like out of the box, or just like, if this constraint, I just even forced these guys to go a different direction than what they would have gone if they had like advertising or marketing budgets.
Yeah, I mean, I think what easily comes to mind is something that I'm doing for a company that I'm consulting for. Is at the moment, right? It's not like there's an absence of budget entirely. Is that things are hard, so let's maximize before we run out of money, and really just focusing on the product offering itself. Might not count as creativity, but I would explain, because like I think it's very important at the time to say we have like a great product, we have like a need. If we focus on building this right, people would actually come. So it's like, hey, can we get into new corridors? We're having gamification to get more people for like very tiny incentive, way less than like 90% less than what the cost per acquired user if we're doing any paid marketing would be. And being able to like just get more people to say, hey, the more I log in, the more I transact, the more things I'm actually able to get. And then it's becoming a lot more easier for me to just use the ecosystem of products, right? And I see that that's working really well. So when we started let's not do any paid marketing for Q1, it was like, oh my God, it's going too deep. But then we focused that entire time just engaging with customers, right? So doing webinars, doing IG lives, leveraging customer.io, and making sure that people have the right information or the right nudge to move from one point to the other, and they know how they are getting rewarded because they're getting from one point to the other. I was still seeing that as against a nosedive that we expected, we actually getting an increase. And what
who is we here?
Sorry, say that again.
Who is we? No. So this is not smart. This is a company consulting.
Yeah, this is a company that comes.
Okay. So because I was curious, but when you said IG live, I was like,
Oh
Spotlight
no,
game,
no, not
IG
B2B.
Live.
This is
How
this
does
is
Spotlight and
this
IG
is
Live go together?
this is B2C.
That's definitely out of the box. If that was
Yeah, but I kind of
okay.
lost my train of thought. Yeah, but just doing more things to engage existing customers.
Okay.
And what I've
Okay.
seen that is the beauty of it is it's not just that we are then not getting it deep in even like people using the product, but that it's also getting more people to talk about the product, to do like more referrals as well. So
Right.
the acquisition is still working, the activation is still working, the
Yeah.
transaction is actually still working as well, and nothing
Right.
is missing. Will there be like a marketing spend in Q2? Yes, there would be. But what that has also done, it has taught everybody that, oh yes, we can grow if we focus on more exciting things and more engaging things, and just making sure that the people that we have are loyal and they can understand what they need to do with all the information, versus
Yeah.
trying to do one out of the box campaign that takes a lot
Yeah.
of money, that takes a lot of time.
Right.
And then we're only able to do one campaign for the entire quarter, and instead do like weekly stuff.
Yeah, you're right. I think one thing that's come out of this period as well is just like focus and depth of engagement that you have with your customers. I think a lot of startups, I mean, like I can say that for where I work as Paystacking particularly, like there was just that intentionality as like, okay, let's go deep with what we have. Let's go sell what we have. It was not about like, let's start building fancy, shiny stuff. It was like, okay, what do we have? Who needs it? How do we engage with them? If they don't like what we built, why is it the case? What's broken in it? So it's, in fact, you learn a ton when you take that approach. That even just makes you better for when you start advertising again, because you have just a better product and you have a better understanding as well of your customers. And you're not wasting time on the perhaps laggers or detractors, but you really get people that really love what you've built as well. So I definitely hear you on that. Let's talk about advice, because somebody is listening to this or would watch this at some time and say, okay, do you know what? Okay, I hear you. I need to like again set things up. I need to start measuring things and all. Like for you, what would be like the tactical next steps for somebody who wants to just get on top of growing in a more cost-effective way? Like, what is there like a checklist that you would say, or what would like be like just maybe just a very high level, not too nitty-gritty as to like, okay, think about X, Y, Z, have this in place. Especially where it's an early stage startup, in the place where you don't have all the luxury of like a marketing department,
Yeah.
exactly like that. Yeah.
I think that something that really happens, and the way that people think about growth a lot of the time is they think about growth and they think about marketing as the exact same thing.
Right.
It's not.
Yes.
Marketing is a part of growth. It's a very essential part of growth.
Yes.
But it's a bit different. Growth to me is a lot broader, right? And it touches like across the entire funnel. And so when you're thinking of how we want to grow, it's not just how do we want to acquire just new users and what marketing the activities do we want to do, is how do we make sure that the entire life cycle is growing, like it's net positive. And so the first thing I would say is try and map out what your user funnel is or your user journey is, right? And say, hey, this is where our customers are coming from. These are the kind of customers, and this is, how they have to go. So for instance, at Smile, one of the things that we did last quarter was saying, oh, we have two different kinds of customers. One part of them is responsible for 20%, the 20-80% rule. And say, hey, this quality of customers are responsible for this. This is the pipeline and the ICP for this customer. If we wanted to focus on them and focus most of our initiatives on them, what are the things that we need to do across marketing, across sales, across account management, so that we are optimizing the entire journey? So marketing is focused on saying, yes, we can do all of the activities, but my core OKR, for instance, is this particular pipeline of users, even though the other ones are coming from. And so when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, this is the activities that we need to do for, more brand positioning, thought leadership. We want to create a forward report this quarter. This is how we're going to do it. These are the specific things that we need to optimize for conversion rate optimization, so we get more people booking a demo. That's the next step. And then it gets to, once we get there, we're going to nurture them so that they can actually speak to salespeople. That's the next step. And the salespeople actually do that. And so that helps that across the entire journey, marketing is not just working, but then sales is kind of like just chilling. or sales is kind of like doing really well, but marketing is not bringing as many. We're making sure that the entire thing is working. Same thing if you're doing B2C, right? It's like, oh, we're going to acquire users. After we acquire users, they sign up on the website, they download our app, they need to get activated. That might be KYC, that might be doing like a wallet, that might be, signing up and buying their first meal if it's like a child app or whatever they need to do. And then after that, they have to come back. If you spend time kind of like figuring out, and even if it's just guesses, kind of like think through, this is our entire product, this is how we want people to go through the entire thing. And then you can also decide on, these are ways that we would then track how each part of this funnel is working, and if they are growing or if they're not growing, or if something is static. Remember my field example. If I was doing all of this, I would have known way earlier, at least maybe 2 months earlier, that one part of the funnel, which was retention, was actually deepening versus going up, even though as the channel was actually coming in. Once you're able to do that, the next step is to say, hey, do we have an idea of what is already working for each of these stages? For acquisition, is something already working? Can we focus there, most of our energy there, at least until we exhaust that channel, which I kind of also have marketing. You get to a point and realize our current growth engine is not working. We need to find another one. But until we exhaust it, we can actually say you would get good growth for the next quarter or two if you just optimize what is currently working and found more creative ways to do it. And then you get the activation points and say, what is working, what is not working? How do we make sure that we are not deeping? Because the great thing about growth at this point is, if I'm acquiring 8,000 users right now, how this 1,000 users actually translates to real sustainable growth that would allow you money at some point is when that 1,000 users become a 800, 700 actually revenue generating users. Yes, they become customers. And so your goal is, I get them in, but I make sure that we make money from them, and then we're figuring out the best ways to engage them to do that. I don't know if that is but that's how I think about it. I'll start with the funnel. I'll start with, for across all of it, what is working? Let's focus there. And then we'll do 30% of our energy on the new things that we want to try. And there's this question of, there's no bandwidth. Then that happens. If we are really small, what do we can actually do? Yes, acquisition is great, and I can start from there. But you need to be able to find the two most important ones and kind of say, hey, let's do activation and revenue, or let's do acquisition and revenue, and make sure that we are tracking both of them against each other. And so it's another stage, but it will always give you like a holistic overview of how your funnel is doing, and then you can make better decisions on, should we go, should we not, should we actually change something?
Awesome. So I think what's I'm listening. So what we're saying again, if you're living here tonight and you want to actually go think about, okay, how do I do growth properly? And again, I like how you started as to, like, I'm not saying how you go do marketing properly, or how do I spend less more on marketing, but how do I actually grow my business properly? Then again, pause, zoom out, look at the whole customer journey from, again, acquisition, from targeting, channels, acquisition, onboarding, and then again, activation, go live, start transacting, and then even like I would even have like customer support, like how are you even supporting those customers that you've actually brought on board? Because really, very bad support might be the reason why somebody actually churns.
People actually drop. Very true.
Yeah, so it's like, oh well, I wrote to support, I was stuck on this point, and nobody answered me, or they didn't help me. So I think it's that full cycle of, like, again, acquisition, retention, and support and all. I think that's really key. And just again, measure. Like I said, there are very affordable ways in which you can measure today. And just measure, see where things are actually, again, converting. Of course, the drop-offs are come with the territory.
It will happen. Yeah.
You didn't say, oh, my 1,000 will become 1,000 paying customers, like that. Don't be delusioned and think that will be the case. That window shoppers, like, we are just checking out what you're doing. So some competitors are also downloading your app and testing it as well. So that's fine. But again, just work with industry standards. So okay, my drop off should be around this 20, again, like whether 60% for along the funnel. There should be those rates that you are actually, again, benchmarking yourself to, whether you're a SaaS company, in a B2C, a fintech, and the likes. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'll pause to see if we have any questions, any live questions. We have some people submit questions to us via registration, so we can take one or two from from people that have actually submitted questions. But are there any live questions? We could take one or two as well before I move to the submitted questions. Any live questions or what we've read so far from this conversation? You can use the raise hand button or you can use the chats. Ebube Chukwuike, started by class collaboration in the yeah, I don't really get the questions from the chat here, so I don't know if you want to verbalize that. Okay, I will take Sheik's questions in the chat, and then I would call on Ayomide to also ask this question as well. So on SEO piece, can you add more context around how long it's been in place? Was it a startup that was founded this year that they didn't have any SEO presence previously, or is it something that was previously running and now you're just building on it? So I guess it's more like, what's the tenure of the SEO implementation?
Yeah. So it's not a company that was founded this year. It's a company that's been existing for a while. However, we did a rebrand in July 2023, so about 9 months ago. And that rebrand also included changing our domain. So it's a fresh domain. And sometimes what happens when you do a rebrand and you change your domain is that you do lose some SEO juice. We did a lot of work to try to clarify a few things, but we also really dipped a lot and lost like a bunch of our SEO juice. So it kind of felt like we were starting afresh with a little bit of base, right? But yeah, we probably lost like at least 50% of our traffic by just moving from the domain that was like 6 years old to a very new domain. But we are back to where we were, and I think even higher than where we were in June from the old traffic. So yeah, so that's doing really well. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a big thing to note. So when you're buying your domain, your branding.
Yeah, like we did a lot of work. It was a whole thing, and it was a big decision. Like in changing the domain, one of the decision was what's gonna happen to like our domain ranking, what's gonna happen to like SEO.
Yeah.
And but like yeah, we'll just have to do the work to revive it back because like this is the best way to go.
Okay.
But,
okay.
yeah.
Awesome. And then thanks for replying the quotes from Daniel. I think today's measurement is tomorrow's strategy. That should be on a t-shirt. That should be on your wall in your your office and stuff. But that's definitely a good one. Ayomide, do you want to ask a question? Like just unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah. Hi Nubi. Thanks. Hi Chris. Great to learn from you at the session. Now my question relates to product strategies as it relates to growth and when you are seeking fundraising for it. So I help startups raise capital. I offer advice services to startups. And when I engage with founders, they seem to be either obsessed or excited with the product. Follow me, right? They seem to just obsessed or excited with the product. I try to say, oh, well, we have to show that your business.
I'm sorry to cut you. Can we just go to the question so we can answer?
Yeah, exactly. That's my question. Like where you can reconcile where you want to build your product and where you also want to build a business. How do you reconcile like where you either are product obsessed, you're excited about the growth potential of the product, but then you've not been able to show the potential of the business. So how do you help founders? I'm sorry asking Peace because she's in the growth space. So how do you show that? How are you able to distinct product growth potential from the business itself when you're able to pitch your business? Yeah, how do you help founders do that?
So when I'm talking about product growth, I'm not just talking around improving or expanding product features, right? And maybe new corridors. It's not like creating more features. That's very helpful because the more you can give your customers or your users, the more likely they are to stay versus going to like do multiple things in multiple apps. But it's not about, oh, we want to keep building more features. It's that what we have right now, it actually works. If it works, then you would have a business, right? That's pretty much it. And I guess the other part is finding a way to monetize from day one or make money from day one, right? So it's less of we just have a product and we have a nice startup, but we are actually making money. I assume that's what you mean by proving the business. So I would say one, to to make money, you need something that works, whether that's a service that you're offering to somebody and offering them well, or whether that's a product or a solution that you're giving to them. And when they actually use it, it actually works and delivers the value. And that could be like your MVP, could be like the smallest minimum viable version of it. But if I shall use it, I will get the value that that specific feature is supposed to do me. And then figuring out how to make money from them as early as you can. I think that's like the key thing. If you can figure out a way, when we did Founds Connect Live last year, and I'm planning for one in a few weeks. And during the AME session with Odun, somebody was asking how, like, what's the, I think one of her best lessons as a founder, and her answer was monetize from day one. Like, it's not sexy and it's not something a lot of people do in the Nigerian market because they feel like people don't pay for anything. But she was saying that it becomes a lot harder to then start charging people 2 years down the line because they're not saying, but you started with free. Now suddenly you're not charging out fees. Just give them really solid product and charge fees with your full chest from day one and get the user who want to. As long as it keeps being a viable product, people will stay and keep using it. And I kind of always kept that in mind. Say, yes, that's actually valuable. Figure out the best way to make money as early as you can. That's how you build the business. That's how you show your investors that you can actually have the have a way to actually make money. But making sure that the product that you're building actually works. Don't it's crap. Like, the worst thing you can do is to have a product that doesn't work and acquire a bunch of users. Once you lose them, you can't get them back. Like, it's so it's easier to acquire a new customer from scratch. Like, they've never used the product before than to reacquire a user who got pissed and then they left. That's much harder. So just do it right.
Yeah, very spot on that. I think I was watching a video as well from YC. Just again building minimum viable products as well. And they asked, like, if your hair is on fire, what will be the MVP? And you easily say a bucket of water, but that's not true. If I gave you a brick, you would also use that brick to douse the fire on your head. And so I think, again, just looking at what actually fixes the pain for a user and getting that out as quickly as possible, monetizing that's really key. We'll take our last question from Doreen. Doreen, you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yes, thank you so much, Nubi. Thank you, Peace. So I just wanted to ask, I think this is for Peace. So what's your advice for people that are just starting out in growth, especially as product managers? Thank you.
Starting out in terms of like building a career in growth.
Yes. Or maybe you're switching from a regular product management role to a full-time role in growth.
Interesting. So let me know if I get the question correctly. My advice for product managers who want to switch into growth marketing.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I mean, so I think the best growth people are people who have like a mix of product and marketing experience. When I was still, now that I work in B2B, it's a bit less relevant because now I'm doing more sales and marketing than product and marketing. I'm working very closely like with commercial team. Like, the call that made me late was like a sales marketing alignment call. But in B2C, at the time when I was like full-time in B2C, it was product and marketing. Like, I learned how to write PRODs and scope features and stuff. And so my point is, I think a great spot for people who lead growth is when you have product knowledge and you have marketing knowledge, because those two things come together to really help you with sustainable growth. So I would say if you already have the product one, sweet, leverage on it. Start with like product-led growth, right, as your key lever for what you're going to contribute in the growth department. Say, hey, I already understand the product part of it. Now let me figure out the ways that we can build the product or optimize our product so that it becomes our own growth engine, right? Whether that's a referral thing or that's a gamification thing, or whether there's a few nudges here and there that improves the experience and people have like a lot more aha moments, like whatever that is, like there are ways that you can delight users with the product and that leads them to either use it more and transact more, or that helps them to get more users in the system. That's something that you can really own at the beginning, and then start learning the marketing side of things to be able to acquire users from scratch and eventually be a badass that has like both product and marketing knowledge. I hope that helps.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Peace. Any last, like, just feedback or feedback advice for founders as they think about, like, again, lean growth going in this season? Like, any last advice, feedback, just again nudge or call to action that you would leave with folks?
I would say the fact that things are hard is not an excuse to not grow. I see that everywhere, whether it's like raising money or making sure that the business survives or whatever it is. Like, you still have to find a way to grow. The thing that you should be focusing on is finding the sustainable ways to grow. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time to say. Like, I was going to say that for the SEO thing I was talking about, after we went live and we started doing it, kind of took me like 3 months for us to begin to see results. So at the time, I was just going with like my gut and instincts that we know that we can revive it. But like 3 months down the line, by Q4, I'm like, okay, cool, we're on the right track. Now at the end of Q1, I'm like, definitely, I'm hiring like a new person. So yes, sometimes it would take time, but it's always worth figuring it out. It's not the fastest and easier ways that is the most sustainable ways. Like, paid marketing is easy and it's sweet, and I'm a fan, but I know that is not the most sustainable way, because to scale with paid marketing, you need to keep increasing the amount of money you're spending.
Yes, right.
But with organic, you just need to like find the right process, and you won't spend as much money anymore. So figure out how you want to like leverage on that particular part.
Yeah, awesome. Obviously, we can't take any more questions. But if you have any more questions, we'll be sure to answer them, maybe async. So please do send them by email at hello@hope.co. But please, thank you so much for taking the time out to come share with us. That was lots of gems. We have this recording, so we'll definitely be like, again, putting into bits and pieces, and again putting a recap out there as well. I'll hand over to Joe to close us out. I think he might have a question as well for you, but I'll hand over to Joe.
Right, I'm gonna unpin you here real quick and just bring myself on stage. All right, hey, peace. So before you go, do you want to just tell us about what's happening with Founders Connect on the 25th of May?
I definitely want to. So May 25th, 2024. So in about less than 2 months from now, my team is organizing another Founders Connect event. It's going to happen in Queen's Park. We're bringing amazing founders, amazing operators to come talk. We'll have the live show, fireside chat, keynote. The team that I haven't shared publicly yet is Build, because we're doing this specific event for builders. So whether you are building a career, or you're building a startup, or you're backing founders and people who are building amazing things, it's for you. Joe is going to be one of our speakers, speaking around community. We have Adia, we have Sim Shagaya, we have amazing people there who've actually they were already confirmed that's going to be around. So please mark your calendars. Buy tickets when you sit on your TL. It would be nice to support me. It would be nice to see the names that I'm seeing here on our ticket list. But yeah, I'm really excited. We did it last year. It was fantastic. And the goal is that we are able to 10x the experience this year, which is a high bar, because I heard last year was really good for people who came in. So I'm really excited to definitely live up to that. So please, if you're in Lagos, mark your calendars, May 25th, and kindly shop. If you're not in Lagos, you can also travel down. It happens. Buy flight tickets, book a hotel, stay with your friend. But yes, please show up.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. And I see you I see you in London before, but yeah, I'll definitely see you in Lagos.
Amazing. Bye.
So talk to you soon. All right, so